like, oh yeah, this is my manager, Matty Milkshake. Like, what the fuck, bro?
Chris hated it in the beginning. I'm the one that just takes stuff and I shove it down as deep as possible, and then like it'll come out in like 6 months or 2 years. Like I go to therapy because of you. Like
there was one comment that I still remember that hit me, and it said that, and multiple people said it. They're like, Chris, when he speaks, sounds like he's deaf and a ruder word for mentally challenged.
Yes.
And I was just like, fuck, that's a mean comment. Like, I don't want to talk anymore. I'm going to shut the fuck up. I normally would stay with you when I'd come down, because I stopped staying at a hotel. I stay with you and your parents. And you're like, oh, by the way, I quit. Yeah. And I'm like, so I'm staying with you. You're driving me there.
I didn't quit yet. I said, I'm going to quit while you're here.
All right, last one. Who's going to win the Olympia?
And for Classic, who knows?
The rookie's going to come in. What is up, podcast? We have a special guest here today, Matty Milkshake. Your first time on the podcast?
First time
on this one. On this one. Yeah. OG Paradise on Fire days.
It's been a minute.
The true OGs will remember that one. That only lasted like 20 episodes, but it was a good run. Another COVID time of trying to kill something to do.
Yeah.
But we're going to go over Matty's origin story, my origin story. We're going to go over that arc of our life. And we had nothing to talk about, so I literally right now just posted a video of him on my story asking for questions. So once we get through that, I'll pull up what questions are there, and we'll roll from there. So Matthew, tell us about yourself.
Tell us about myself.
We'll start with like the industry of like how you kind of started here, because you were like essentially wanted to be a manager in a different field and going from there.
Just background, like in college, I wanted to be a sports agent, but that came with obviously having to go to law school to kill two birds with one stone. And I happened to do an internship at good old MHP.
Good old MHP.
And that was Chris' first sponsor. And I was there for like 5.5 years. And I didn't go to law school. I got a job right out of college. Figured it'd be just easier to just start making money. And I don't even know what year it was. Was it 2016, I think, you came on board?
Yeah. It was.
I remember he used to have shaved side head, long hair slicked back.
Like Ragnar Lothbrok from Vikings.
I was going to say Brad Pitt from Fury.
Or Brad Pitt from Fury, yeah.
But I just happened to like be I used to be the athlete manager at the time, and happened to be looking for new athletes and stuff. And they were pretty set on like bodybuilders, and Chris just kind of popped them on my For You page, and started like following him for a while, and eventually just said we should sign him. I was flat out told no, that's not what we look for.
I was just denied.
Yeah, denied straight. And then a guy named Steve Bleckman from Muscular Development happened to make the suggestion, and they liked his suggestion. And then they started talking to me if I knew more about you, and then we kind of reached out. And I think you picked us over Shreds.
Yeah, I remember in college, and like this was the days where. Do you remember Shreds?
I remember. Yeah.
Do you guys remember Shreds? You don't remember?
You remember Shreds? Wow.
Well, that was like Paige Hathaway,
Devin Physique, Joey Swole.
I don't even remember them, but like they were a big deal back then, and they hit me up. But I knew they were already getting a bad rap in the fitness industry, and I was my first ever sponsor. I'm like, this could be a big deal. They were like throwing the world at me, and I was like, I think Devin Physique or something was under the scrutiny at the time. And there was a bunch of like scam shit going on. I was like, I don't think
you're there photoshopping a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
it wasn't very genuine with what they were doing.
You're sure the guy who owned it was like accused of fraud or something too.
And he started trying to move into like just marketing. He tried to get rid of the supplements and everything. And he was just Dan Vella, our good old ambassador friend here, worked for Shreds for I think like 3 years.
That guy's been around the industry more than anyone.
He's been with Shreds. He's been with Animal. I had him at MHP for a little bit. He's been been around to a lot of places.
That's funny. So, Steve Bleckman.
Yes, Steve.
And then, did you get any of the credit for that fine?
They kind of said like, oh, I guess like we should have like listened to you and kind of like looked further into it, because like I started showing them all the stuff and whatever, but it wasn't too. They kind of just said it was like a half and half, because at that time MHP was going through a transition. Yeah. So you kind of became like the first athlete of the new generation. Mm-hmm. Total tank job of of a company. They kind of flopped, but they kind of just went in a different direction that a lot of their customers didn't, and then I don't think they even tried to utilize you in any capacity.
No, they tried a few times.
Yeah, I mean, like,
they pretty much put me in touch with Muscle and Strength, and then they did their own videos.
Yeah, I mean, I think like the first one we did was like you came into New Jersey and did like at Apollo Nutrition.
Yeah.
Which you guys think he can talk now? You should have guys seen him back then.
Oh my god, that was bad.
He couldn't get a couple because he's terrible reading scripts, and they would give him a script and he would just go blank, which a lot of guys do. I mean, it's pretty hard to just like read off.
There was one specific one I just fucked up until we changed it because I couldn't do it.
I think you literally said, just don't talk to me. Like, let me go. You literally took, I think, like 10 minutes for yourself and said, let me just think of a completely new thing that just off the cusp.
Yeah, that was brutal.
But yeah, he's a totally changed man now.
Those days were honestly like why I was like wanting to do this with Raw Nutrition was because of how stupid it was with like athletes and how they treated them. And they'd bring them in and be like, read this script and then do this photo shoot. And like, it was also like fake and perfect.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I hated it. So I was like, if I hate this, people probably don't really like watching it. So like, shouldn't a supplement brand just like, okay, live your life. We'll just like be a fly on the wall.
They were very to the books, like in contracts back days. You had to literally go and have like a post of you holding a bottle.
Yeah.
Like there was never like, it wasn't stories like that back in the day. But as soon as that it got implemented, like that's where my focus was. Cause like you said, it kind of showed more of the personality of somebody. And you know, I kind of went back and forth with the owner at the time and he didn't agree with that. They were still doing like $1 million in print a year in magazines.
All their money in magazines.
Yeah. And I was like, give me like 10 grand for Chris. And he's like, no. And that was kind of like the beginning of the end of like what we can do and kind of stuff. But I did end up doing, I actually asked, I think I hired Dan Drescher and it was 2017 Olympia. And basically I hired him without telling Chris that I'm going to have him there for the Olympia. And I kind of just showed up on a whim and said, hey, Chris, this is Dan. Did you meet him at the time yet? I don't think so. Or did he come out and shoot you once?
I think I had done one video with him.
Which Dan is a super chill guy. But I basically showed up with Dan and said, he's going to follow you the entire weekend or weekend of the Olympia. And Chris looked at me and flat out said no.
This was before my YouTube.
Yeah, he did a couple YouTube videos, but he didn't really care or like really go look into it too much. I think like Dana Baker was like filming a couple videos for you. And he flat out told me no, which I already paid Dan. So I was kind of like freaking out on the inside. And I just kind of said like, Dan's going to be a fly on the wall. Like people want to see what you do on the back end, what you do behind the scenes. And he looked at me and said like, I'm so boring. Like I'm literally just going to be in bed the entire time. And I just said, not even for like the fans to see, but like maybe if he does well, he'd like to like look back on it and say like, oh, I can go watch that and like be proud of myself. Yeah. And I pitched that one to him instead of the whole fans thing. And he kind of like warmed up to it. And I said like, look, at any time, like just try it. And if you don't want Dan there, we'll scrap the whole thing. Yeah. And he went through with it, and then the videos did pretty well.
They got like 1 million views.
Yeah, I think each video got like 1 million views.
Or even had like 100,000 subs on Instagram. Yeah. YouTube.
And I mean, the video, I mean, I got to hand it to him. He's just he's storyteller and editor. Yeah. So the storytelling on it was perfect. You know, he included the entire family in it. He did a great job with it. I mean, that was kind of like we did that, and then I think we went out to LA right after, and we went to like what's Bradley Martin's gym, Zoo Culture. We went out there, did a couple videos and stuff like that. 10,000 calorie challenge, and I think every video that we did there got 1 million views. And I think that was the one time like we started talking and said like, I think there's like something else here other than just like MHP or like contracts and shit like that. So I think that was like our first discussion, but I think it wasn't until like 1.5 years later that I was like, I'm going to quit. Like, And I kind of just waited for him to show up one day. He came to the HQ, and I think I told him, I was like,
he told me, I told you booked my flight. And and I normally would stay with you when I'd come down, because I stopped staying at a hotel. I stay with you and your parents. And you're like, oh, by the way, I quit. Yeah. And I'm like, so I'm staying with you. You're driving me.
I didn't quit yet. I said, I'm going to quit while you're here. And basically Chris showed up, and he did like a photo shoot, I think I remember, and I'm like, I think I'm gonna go do it. Like, are we ready to like start something to like do something else and like whatever? And you said yes, but you're like, can you just wait until after I leave? And I was like, bro, I gotta do it today. And I went in there and I did it. I think they had some type of like knowledge that I was gonna obviously do something with you. Obviously I just had other opportunities, but it kind of all worked out, I guess, in the end.
Yeah, I think we had also done, I don't even know if I'm allowed to say that, but you helped me somehow had an out before you left.
Yeah. So this is just advice for anyone that's watching here that like is getting into being an athlete or anything. Like, read your contracts. Like, make sure that it's literally
have someone else read them.
Yeah, have someone else read them. Like, honestly, you have no knowledge of what it's even about, what language is in it, or anything else like that. You have no idea if you're getting screwed. Just because, like, at the end of the day, it's supposed to be beneficial for both the athlete and the company. At the end of the day, you want both to work there, and at the end, if the athlete is unhappy, they're not going to put in the effort and the work.
Yeah.
And vice versa. If the athlete is getting too much and they're not doing anything for the company, obviously the company is going to want to go in a different direction. But for Chris, I mean, I didn't see his first contract that he saw. He sent it to me after the fact, but he had like a 1 year deal with like minimal money. I think it was maybe like 15 grand or something, 20 grand.
I was getting $2,000 a month.
$2,000 a month.
I was fucking loaded.
So he was loaded.
I was flying.
And he was going out to bars every week and everything else like that.
I always say richest I ever felt was that contract.
And like back then they would give out contracts just set on a whim and everything else like that based on potential and stuff like that. So, a lot of the bodybuilders were making 50 to 100 grand easy, and they weren't getting much return other than like international sales and stuff. There wasn't really direct to consumer the way it is now. But basically he signed this contract getting like $20,000 a year. And like at the time, I mean, you had like 30,000 followers, I think, when I found like your profile. Something like that. So you had like no following, but I think you just were going to go into nationals or something, or North Americans.
I had turned pro.
You just started talking to, I think you went into North Americans, you won, because then you did a shoot with Jason Breeze, I remember.
Yeah.
And I think we signed you right after North Americans. And he basically had his 1 year contract with three option years thereafter that were all company options, which is like, okay, if, there's mutual benefit there, but it was at the same price every year. And I don't even think there was commission back in those days. So you didn't even have any commissions on sales or anything else like that. So obviously, like as Chris, you probably had 30, and then in year 2, you had like 200,000 people following you at that point. And like at that point, that was like a big deal. And he clearly at that point didn't have he was worth way more than what his contract was. He was producing more for the company, and it
took me a long time to learn to bet on myself.
Yes.
I was like, okay, this is safe. If I have another one and they'll re-sign me, like, this is safe. And then I was like, I tripled my value, and then I wasn't getting paid anymore. And I was like, okay. And then I did something else safe. And then after a while, I'm like, fuck this. Like, if I keep growing faster than the contract, it's not fair.
What was your second one? Gymshark? No, you were with Jed North. But they paid you okay.
Yeah, they paid me.
So I think that was like when you first started seeing like, okay, like there's actually more like value out here for me and stuff like, because you were a Strong Lift Wear, Jed North, and then you went to Gymshark. But we kind of like, when I left, I was like, you got to do something about it. Oh, I didn't even leave yet. And I said, like, I did finagle my way to get him a more market fair contract and everything else like that. I mean, he truly did deserve it at that point. He was there for 2.5 years, I think, and nothing had changed and everything else like that, but he was still producing for the company. So, I mean, you were traveling and stuff. I got to say that to this day, of all the shows we've gone to, the best show we've ever done was your first Arnold, because you were so new to the industry. No one knew who you were. You got to go there and have fun for yourself.
Hang out.
Yeah, and you were just hanging out with like everyone who was there. Yeah. And nowadays it's like you kind of have to run through the entire thing. Avoid. And that just goes back again. Read your contracts, or have someone else read them and actually know what you're doing, because I mean, who would have knows? You would have been stuck in that one for 3, 4, 5 years.
Literally.
So.
Yeah. Again, which is why with our shit, we have like every contract has something for our athletes to be able to grow.
Yes.
If you grow within 2 months, you get paid more. Like
it's
there for the athlete, because I got fucked with that so many times.
Yeah, I mean, even like when Chris came into Raw, I mean, I think we sat down and we said, like, how do we benefit an athlete if they grow?
Yeah.
That was the main objective with it, because at the end of the day, like I said, an athlete has to be happy, or an ambassador even has to be happy. Like, there has to be some type of steps of growth to kind of get from point A to point B. Mm-hmm. And, back in the day, they didn't have that. So, I mean, it was, they didn't care at all. But those big guys who are getting big contracts for in open bodybuilding and everything else like that, and they just were getting it based on their placing or their like, I mean, at the time, Brandon Curry wasn't producing like he was, but he was known as like the prodigy. So he got like this massive contract from BSN.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars. Yeah.
And he hadn't done anything yet, which is like boggles my mind. But it's changed, I think, in a good way. Obviously, like bodybuilding, like you have to have some type of social presence, which is kind of like what you build for yourself. But like I would say the biggest thing there is you didn't really try. Like you put your personality out there, and you didn't actually say, I'm here to be an influencer.
Yeah, no.
You know,
and like you said, how fucking awkward I was at the beginning.
Yeah,
I feel like on some level, people like that I was a new kid and I was fucking weird and I didn't know what I was doing. But they're like, just a new kid, you know. Well, and then they got to see me become less of an awkward dude.
I mean, at the time you were awkward. Your lisp was heavy and everything else like that. But like people started, I remember people used to start talking about your lisp, and like in the beginning you're like, oh well, that sucks. Like, but like you didn't let it bother you. They kind of just started like making fun of yourself and everything. It just became like this persona that like whatever is thrown at you.
There was one comment that I still remember that hit me, and it said that. And multiple people said it. They're like, Chris, when he speaks, sounds like he's deaf and a ruder word for mentally challenged.
Yes.
And I was just like, fuck, that's a mean comment. Like, I don't want to talk anymore. I'm going to just shut the fuck up. I remember that.
Yeah, but like, I mean, I think like that was the biggest thing is like what I've learned from you is kind of just like whatever's thrown at you, like from outside people, like you were always someone that didn't care what other people thought of you, whether it was, you said it doesn't matter if someone hates me and throws me a shade comment or something like that, or if they showed me some comment of like, oh, they admire me, because at the end of the day, both of those people don't even actually truly know who you are. No. So it doesn't really matter, you know? So I think that's kind of like even what has keeps you leveled in some capacity is where like all the followers that you do have, they don't actually know that, like they know you from who you are, like it is you, but they don't know who you are on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
You know,
people idolize people on social media too, and they build an image of what they think you are.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it would give me a complex if I thought I had to be as perfect as some people thought I was, because I'm fucking not.
Well, it's funny because like we just did the event in Jersey, and I don't know how many people that came up to me and were like, "Oh my god, like Chris is just a normal guy," and I'm like, "What'd you think? What'd you think he was? Like he's a guy who likes to lift weights and sit on the couch and watch Naruto or whatever it's called, you know?" So I mean, he's come definitely a long way from where we first started. I mean, it's been a wild ride, honestly. I mean, it's picked up crazy. And
that was crazy. Yeah. So in 2017, you left.
Yeah.
And then that's when we decided we were going to work together and like start doing our own side shit.
Which I was scared shitless. Like,
it was 2018,
I think it was 2018. Yeah. Melissa just competed in Orlando, I think.
Yeah.
And, I was scared shitless. I mean, because I knew at the time, like I had like, again, it was going back to being safe. Like you had a salary at the time. Like I had a salary at the time. And the hardest problem was like, I knew I probably wouldn't make any money for like a good year or two. So like, I mean, my parents, like, thank God, kind of like taught me to save money and like be prepared. Yeah. So, I mean, I hoarded money when I was younger. I didn't like go out and like, I just got what I needed and then knew like, hey, down the line it'll be worth doing this.
Yeah.
You know,
such an important lesson that people don't have now.
No.
It's like, how old were you when you left?
24, 25.
So you took like 20 to 25 to just hustle and save money, and you put yourself in a safe position where you saved money, you worked hard, you hustled, and then, okay, I have this fucking safety net of money. I can go take a risk now and rely on that and live off that. In worst case, I can then go back to something safe.
Exactly.
But you had you had built an opportunity to take a risk.
And I also, I talked so much in depth with honest. My parents were totally against it. My mom was totally against it. My dad was like on the fence. The only one who actually kind of was like, he's 20 years old, like he's in his 20s, like was whatever, was honestly my grandma. She like talked to my dad and was like, what does he got to lose? Like if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Like he's in his 20s, like that's like what his 30s can be for if it doesn't work out, but like why not take the jump? And I think that's when my like dad kind of like was like, all right, like it kind of makes sense. But like honestly, before I did it though, they made sure like I had all my loans paid off, I had my car paid off, so like I wasn't going out there with all these like high-end bills that I still had. So I was lucky in that capacity. Obviously like I had like rent and stuff after that, but I mean that was kind of the only expenses that I had that I kind of got away from, which I know that holds a lot of people down. But like you said, from 20 to 25, it was just about like whatever I could do to get that extra cash or like put in those extra hours to get more money.
Yeah.
And I wasn't making much by any means. Like at MHP, my starting salary was like $18,000 to $20,000 a year. I went in and I was an intern working for free because it was for college credits, and because of that, obviously I went from free work to I'm thinking I'm going to get at least offered like market value at that time. It was like marketing coordinator position of like 40,000. And they came in there. No, they were like 18,000. And I was like, I went like white in the face. I remember like, and he's like, do you not like it? And I was like, no, like, I think that's totally unfair. Like, but I looked at it and like I said, all right, like it's a stepping stone to where I want to get. And like, I just need to get my foot in the industry and kind of like work from there.
Yeah.
And he's like, don't worry, like you'll be rewarded. Just keep doing what you're doing. In a year, you know, you're going to be like sitting pretty and making more money. Year 2, they offered me $24,000. And I'm like sick. Like, but like
that wasn't even minimum wage for the hours.
No, it was awful. I mean, I was working at least 60 hours a week, and I was working weekends for obviously different trade shows and stuff like that. Or like we used to have all the East Coast shows with Steve at Weinberg and everything. And I mean, I was always at those shows.
Yeah.
But I knew at the end of the day, like if I kind of just put in that work and the effort, like, and even like at the end of the day, if there's a hole that needs to be filled. Like at the time, they didn't have like they needed like graphics done for social media and stuff. And I didn't know anything about Photoshop. So I literally just thought, why don't I just learn it? Like it was part of like my job to like coordinate with them and we got what posted. So I kind of just learned Photoshop and anything else like that I could do to make, they didn't have Canva at the time. Yeah. So you couldn't just like put graphics together.
Monkey.
Yeah. So you had to like literally like cut out all these athletes in Photoshop, kind of make your graphic and then go from there. But like if there's a hole that you see, that if you're working in a company and you see a hole, like try to learn it on your free time. It definitely goes a long way of getting noticed. Like I went from marketing to sales to I was helping in like Amazon, their warehouse, like kind of whatever job I had, I just kind of went with. But
and then that skill led to you making some t-shirts.
Yeah, led to me making some t-shirts, which I think was it Thavage our first one?
No, not at all. It was the
it was the
2018 Olympia
2018
shirt.
Olympia, yeah, which was another like I remember we didn't even have a Shopify store. I don't think the first.
No, I sold like the first 200 I think 180 to 200, and I took individual payments on PayPal. People DM me their name and address, and I had to find the PayPal thing matched to the name and the address. And then I didn't have a label printer, so I had to write it out. And then I ended up printing it and then cutting it and taping it all together one by one. And I think it took me 5 days to do 200 orders.
Yeah, I mean, I remember that. That was insane.
Yeah, and then you opened the Shopify and you took over.
Yeah, I opened the Shopify and I said, like, let me take care of this. And I remember at that time, like, I think I had gone back to just, like, live with my parents at that time. And we ordered, like, all these T-shirts. And, like, there was nowhere to put them in the house or anything. So I was putting them, like, my mom's living room. But she was, like, furious. But like obviously like we started doing it that way, the printer and everything helped, but I mean just from what that was then to what it is today is just crazy.
Yeah.
I mean it's wild.
Started with a few hundred t-shirts, and then I think 2019 after the Olympia when we were in Austin when we dropped the Thavage tee. We dropped the first Thavage tee and the app at the same time.
Yes. Yeah.
So we were building on the app for a while, partnered with someone to help us with that, and then the Thavage tee was like when that was like, okay, lean into the list.
Yeah.
So like I put it in a caption and people loved it. We're like, fuck it, put it on a shirt.
Did we do Weekend Warrior first?
Oh,
I think we did.
The tank tops?
Yeah, we did tank tops and hat.
The hat and then
we did the
anti-weekend
hoodie
or club, whatever.
Yeah.
Good old Phil Heath didn't like that one.
No. let's talk about that a little bit.
What? Phil Heath not liking me?
Yeah. I mean, he likes you now. Back in the day, Chris ruffled some feathers.
Yeah, I don't think he knew what I was doing. I love Phil Heath. He was the guy I looked up to, which is why it scared me. But he made the Weekend Warrior comment, and I guess he wasn't meaning to be demeaning with it, but people took it as such, and I thought it was hilarious, so I'm not going to be demeaned by being... He was saying classic physique competitors are the weekend warriors who want to play ball on the weekend with their friends and then like train during the week. People were like offended by it. So I made a caption of like Weekend Warrior. And people started a chain of like, I didn't get that many comments on my shit back then, but like a couple hundred comments of fuck Phil Heath. Was the call.
And they tagged him on every
one. They were tagging him. And I felt really bad because this is the guy I looked up to. I started competing in 2013 when he was like peaked.
Yeah.
2013 Phil, he's one of the best physiques ever. And then I was like, fuck. And then he DM'd me. He's like, bro, you got to be conscious of like what you're saying it there has impact, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, fuck, man, did I just piss off Phil Heath? Like, I haven't even met the guy, and he already doesn't like me. But I ended up seeing him at the Olympia that year. And he was super cool with me. He gave me advice, and he didn't actually care, but I was definitely scared. He hated me at the time.
Yeah, I didn't know what was going to happen. Because I remember we did a photo shoot the day after Olympia, and he was there at the exact same time, and I didn't even know what he was going to do.
Yeah.
But he was super polite.
Yeah, he was giving me advice saying I have a bright future and blah, blah, blah. But
that was crazy. I think it was like you, Flex Lewis was there at the same time. Yeah. These guys were at the peak of their career that day.
That was wild.
And you got fresh second place.
Yeah.
What did you ever think you were going to get second place at the first show?
Fuck no. I didn't even know what was going on. I thought Danny Hester was going to win. I didn't know who Breon Ainsley even was. I was just kind of showing up.
I didn't even realize about not even knowing about. I thought who is Arash? Arash was
like the big gun. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember he posted his side tries with a mouse guard on in his bedroom, and I was like, "Fuck, this guy's huge."
Yeah, I mean whatever happened to him?
I'm not sure.
I don't even know.
He disappeared at some point. He's from around you, right?
Yeah, he was from New York. I think he moved though. He was working out at Bev's for a long time.
Yeah.
Bev's is. I mean, there was so many people that came out of that gym.
Yeah.
East Coast is pretty.
It's like it's gritty.
It's gritty, but it produces a lot of bodybuilders.
That's what I mean. The grittiness brings out like the hardworking, blue collar like bodybuilders.
Yeah,
it's a good thing.
I mean, they have so many shows out there too.
Yeah, but yeah. So we started with the T-shirts, and then it built into that. I always my brain comes back to this because people always ask me about dropping out of college. And I feel like there's the lucky people out there who like take all the risk with no safety, and and it works out for them. And great, if you can believe in yourself like that, to just leave broke and like live in your car and chase your dream and win, good for you. But like we weren't like that.
No.
We were overthinkers. Yeah. We wanted to be prepared. So I was like, all right, I need money saved. I need to start my education. I need to balance work, school, and bodybuilding. And you were like, I'm gonna have all this money. I'm gonna get a normal job. And then we were like, okay, like. We have the safety net. We've proven we can work hard, but now to take it to the next level, we have to make the scary jump with some protection behind us.
Yeah.
It wasn't just willy-nilly.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the people today are honestly, I always find the people that ask you the question like, oh, do you think it was worth dropping out of school for? And like they want you to say like yes, and like that they should drop out. And I do feel like that's like a cop out. Like I truly think that person is asking because they just are lazy and don't want to do something. Yeah. And they just think that the next big thing is going to be themselves. And like it doesn't just work like that. Like they see who you are now, but they don't see who you were back in the day. I mean, like even then, like it's weird because like I went to college. I think it's like just be smart with where you go. Like don't put yourself in $200,000 in debt and stuff like that. But like be smart with where you pick and go to school. Like obviously if you're like in state, it's not the horrible thing. Like it's a little cheaper, but like be smart with that decision because it's going to follow you for fucking forever.
In America.
In America. I mean, it's crazy. And then someone just said the other day to me that like a school is charging now like $55,000 a year out of state. And I think that's like insane because what you can now get online and everything else like that, like I think is value. Like I think college is valuable in that I think it shows that you can do something, like there's experience there. And you can kind of like use it to your own way. But I think like you need it from the social aspect. Yeah. I think a lot of kids nowadays kind of forget that, and they forget that you're allowed to be a kid. A lot of these guys come out at like 18 and they just want to like have everything, and I think once they get everything they like crash and burn a lot quicker because they're just not used to it.
Yeah, it was almost an advantage for us that like an 18-year-old was meant to be a bum.
Yeah,
my 22-year-old friends were all bums.
Yes,
and so was I, and it was just normal.
Yeah,
it wasn't like you were on social media and some dude was fucking like killing it at 18 years old making fucking 10 grand a month doing this. I didn't know anyone like that.
No.
So it wasn't the expectation. I was like, all right, let me just go be a fucking idiot for a while. Then I'll worry about getting my life together.
I think it made us more disciplined. Like it just, I mean, you would still go out to bars and stuff, but like you'd be like, oh, like, all right, like I got to cut myself off there and stuff like that. Like you still had a good time and everything, but you weren't like dumb with your money. You kind of like taught valuable lessons to kind of like save or anything like we talked about. And I mean, I see it a lot now, and I see a lot of these kids like go out there and they try to like keep up with this image that they think they have to be. And then within like 2 to 3 years, they're like broke. And then like, what do they do after that?
Yeah, nothing.
Yeah. It's sad to see, honestly, but I think you've done a good job in kind of like pioneering the way to be like, hey, like do things right. Like yours was a progression, right? You went from the party boy in school, partying 5 days a week. I also wasn't allowed to hit up Chris before 11 a.m. and expect.
Well, you could. I
said I wouldn't expect a response until about 1 for at least 5-6 days out of the week.
Yeah.
But he went from college to then he went obviously to the Olympias, and then from the Olympias he did that for a while, and then you had some adversity with your autoimmune disease, which I mean you didn't even know if you were going to be able to continue.
Yeah.
And then from there you said like, hey, like. I think we talked about this in California. That was the first time you're like, I just don't want sponsors. I think you had you were talking to Gymshark, but like that, which was a good move for you, I think at the time. It was like 2019. You started talking about like
not wanting.
Like.
Well, as soon as the reason we started with T-shirts was because one of my goals was to have my own clothing.
Exactly.
That was like the OG dream.
Yeah.
And then the more like sponsors started to come to me, and I started to be like, okay, I have like an array of 20 ones I could pick from now, and I'm like, do I even want to do any of this?
Yeah.
I'm like, the more I do this, am I going to have 2 years of it? And then people are going to be like, this guy's a sellout just trying to sell me fucking teeth. With the teeth whitening shit and the fucking belly rubs and like vaso, all this bullshit. And I got offered $1,000 for all this shit. And I was like, nope. Like,
I said, that's the one thing I got to hand it to you. You never took like a quick payout. Like you never were like, yo, like I can go make $5,000 this month or whatever. You always like kind of stuck to who you were and like, would I actually use it? And if not, like, it doesn't mean anything to me. And I mean, nothing really changed in your day-to-day life, but it was more of a, I mean, it was admirable to say that like you didn't just go after quick cash. Mm-hmm. I mean, you don't even do that today still. You know, you get offered so many different things and you're still like, honestly, like I like how my lane is. I'm going to stay in my lane and keep going from there.
This isn't meant to be a plug for them, but I remember the one I wanted was the movement watches.
Yeah.
All the cool kids had movement watches on social media, and I was like, I really want that sponsorship. And then they ended up hitting me up, and I was so excited. I gave everyone movement gifts for Christmas that I didn't pay for. I thought it was fucking great.
They were good. I mean, they were good sponsors to have at the time. I think
that was like a $200 watch. It was pretty good quality. Like I wore
those
it.
Were like that was where Calvin got excited into like photography, because at that point he was only video.
Yeah.
And he only did your YouTube and everything else like that. And I think it was 2019 Olympia? He started playing with the gym shot. I remember it was in Good Life?
Oh, yeah.
It was in that one posing room. That was like his first picture that he ever did.
Our first like photo shoot style of us.
Yeah. And he went from that, and I think he got excited by the movement like promotions that you were doing and stuff like that, because he's into fashion.
He's always been bougie.
Yeah. So he was like, oh shit, you got this dope ass watch. They had like jewelry and shit at the time.
Yeah.
And
he'd always try to get me to dress up fancy and shit. I'm not wearing that shit.
He would plan out all these photo shoots for you, and Chris was like, I'm not doing these.
I'm not dressing up like that.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm trying to think who else you had at that time. It was Gymshark, I think you ended up going.
Gymshark, Jack Factory.
Jack Factory, that's right. Jack Factory is another good one.
They were good people. Yeah,
those are good guys over there, and I mean, they're still crushing it today.
Yeah.
But like getting into like the side of Raw, I mean, that was kind of, so at the time, Chris always lived in Ottawa, and I always lived in New Jersey. So like we always would try to like meet up in the middle at different shows and everything else like that. Like we always just communicated through text, phone, email, whatever it was. And or I would go out to Canada a lot, and it was time to make the next step, I think, in your career. And then it was also something where it was like I needed to do something to like continue our like side of the business. And that was where we started just kind of 2020. It was like right before COVID. We're like, where can we move to? Like whether it was like I go to Canada, you come here.
It's somewhere.
But it would just like make business a lot easier and better and just more, cohesive. And we ended up going to San Diego, I think was the first one.
After the Olympia.
Yeah, after the Olympia. And it was okay. It wasn't for us. It wasn't for us. Like the biggest thing is every time you go to California, which is not everybody there, but like a lot of people will just come off as fake and everything else like that. And that just wasn't kind of our style. And especially Chris. I mean, he went there and every time he's like, oh, I hate it here. But we went from there to, I think we went to Austin, Texas. It was all within 1 week, right?
No, that was different. We went to Austin, we went to LA Fit Expo and everything.
Oh, that's right.
That was when Kobe died. And
that's right.
COVID started.
That was a crazy fucking time.
Yeah. But no, that was later in the year we went to Austin.
Which Austin was nice. I think it was just like too busy for us.
Yeah, something just didn't click.
Yeah, it just didn't feel like home.
I think what we discovered though at that point, and was luckily we knew, was searching for someone to move for the sake of moving. Like the location doesn't mean anything other than like the people and what you have going on there.
Sure.
So we kept going somewhere looking for something, and we're like, it's another city. It's nice. The weather's good, but like what else? We're leaving our family behind for this. It better be important.
I mean, we're both close with our family to that capacity, so it was kind of like that. I mean, that was both tough at the same time, but like necessary, I think, to make like that next step. And I think we kind of started talking more because I got the last flight. Well, it was COVID. I was in Canada at the time. I got the very last direct flight out of Ottawa to go home. And Chris at the time was like, I mean, like, you can stay here if you want, like, whatever you want to do. And like at the time, obviously, no one knew anything. So like I ended up going back home, and then we didn't see each other probably for like a year and a half or something. And then I was supposed to go to obviously the Olympia in 2020. I ended up getting COVID, couldn't go. Chris is like, stay the hell away from me, like, don't even come near me. Which that one hurt because like that was like one where like you put so much of this work in behind the scenes. Like that was one I truly was like, oh, like I it would suck that I missed that one.
Got all the other ones.
Yeah, but I think it was April of like 2021. We had talked to Dom for a while about different stuff because you were already with Revive.
Yeah, I can't remember. Do you remember why we specifically, was it just to escape COVID, why we came down?
No, so we never actually did it. We were gonna make a sauce company.
Oh yeah.
And at the time, it was like we were talking.
Still in the back burner.
Still in the back burner. But at the time, we were gonna make a sauce company. We actually partnered with Dom, and we were gonna come down. I think just check out the area, and then also just talk about the sauces and get whatever we can get going.
I'd come down for the grand opening of Revive.
Yes.
And hearing Dom talk about his like marketing ideas, everything he's putting into the clinics and the gym, and I was like, this dude is fucking smart. Like I want to partner with this dude. And then we're trying to think of something to do together.
He's like the one person, like I said, he's grown so much that we like since we've been here. Yeah. But it's like when I always say like find someone who's smarter than you, like you immediately, I remember like sitting in with meetings and him in the beginning, and like he's very calculated. Like everything that he does, he's already 2 steps ahead of like whoever he's talking to. Mm-hmm. And like just to be able to like watch that when we first came down here, I think like he was very also like accepting and open arms to us. Yeah. So that kind of like made it feel more like home. And like the team he had here already was already just, I mean, great. I mean, good people, more family like. But we came down here for like a week or 2. I think you stayed for 3 weeks because it was like you just want to get out of Canada.
We planned to stay for 1 week.
Yeah,
you stayed for like 2.5. I stayed for like a month.
Yeah, because I think we were doing. That's when we started doing clothing drops out of the raw warehouse, which is like now the leg room at Revive.
Yeah, we were doing marketing in the meetings in the leg room.
No, we were doing it in the posing room.
I guess it would have been where the posing room was, and where the walkway of that turf is. Yeah, that was like part of it. It's just a little turf walkway now. And then that was the warehouse.
That was like the war room of the fucking office.
That was wild. That was the first time we moved the T-shirts out of your mom's garage too.
Yeah.
So she was
happy. She was so happy that she offered to come down whenever just to help work. Yeah. Because at the time, like, it was just, I mean, you were still helping me fill shirts. Yeah. I mean, we were doing a good amount, and it was you, me, Courtney, Paige, my mom came down. Yeah. And then we came down here, and, like, the team at Revive kind of just, like, helped out. Like, Dom even was there, Sammy was there. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, those were some long hours. I
think that was our big drop where we were like, we got to figure something else out. Yeah. Because it was literally you and your parents packing orders before that. And then we did it at a warehouse, and I think there was, like, 10,000 shirts or something sold in a weekend. Yeah. That was like Pressure the Privilege, Black and Red Savage. That was like some cool shit. And then we were like, we're kind of fucked if we keep doing
because our goal was always like, if you ordered on a Friday, all packages went out by Monday. Yeah. Like that was always the goal, is like customer service is number one. And it got to the point where we had so many things that obviously like you need to start scaling the business. Yeah. And like you said, we were like, all right, we got to do something. And, you know, like I said, Dom kind of like let us just use the raw warehouse. And that was kind of like when he came and said like, hey, I know we're doing other things, but like I have this idea. And I remember him and Matt sat down and talked with you. And that was probably, what do you think it was one of the hardest decisions you've had to make?
I think it was just difficult for me to leave Jack Factor, who had just done a lot for me. Yeah. And then we just started building something really big. And I'm fucking like loyal to the bone of me. I'm like, when I like commit to something, like there's like all these events when I want to back out everything, I'm just like, if I said yes, I'm doing it. Yeah. So then I just started that with Jack Factory, and I just felt guilty like leaving them. But it was like, it was an opportunity. It wasn't hard saying yes, it was hard saying goodbye to them, I think.
That's what I figured.
That was the hard part. But yeah, they offered me like equal partnership in this brand that they were building, which was like, no offense, but nothing at the time. It was just like a brand new little baby that had the corner of the Revive warehouse. And I was like, fuck, like, yeah.
I think what people also don't realize too is like you came in and I think a lot of people were like, oh, he's just co-owner as a name and face and whatever. But like you came in every single day to the office and you still do.
Yeah.
Like you come in with ideas, you come in with things that you want to implement. You're like the bridge between like the employees and like and Dom sometimes and Matt, and like you help kind of bring out their energy to help come out with different ideas. And I think people
go upstairs and tame the fires a little
bit.
Exactly.
Like Chris is like the zen of the office. If anything's on fire, he's just like, it's going to be okay, guys. Not that it is ever really, but like whenever you have like any small things that like
a bit of chaos in business.
He's always like the one that like I'll walk up to Chris and like he'll just see from me from afar and my face is just like the world's ending, everything else like that. And I like walk up to him and like my jersey comes out in me when shit is happening and like I'm like, fuck this, fuck that. And he's like, he's like, just breathe. And he just kind of gets you through it. But yeah, I think you, Matt, and Dom just make such a great cohesive team. I think like you guys all fill your selective roles like to the best that you can.
Yeah.
But I think, like I said, a lot of people don't realize how much effort and work that you actually do put into Raw.
Are we gonna tell you to not come to the office during prep?
Yeah, it was 2 weeks out, and I said, "Can you please go home?" He was still training at like 4 or 5 o'clock, rush hour traffic, like and at that time like. He was getting a lot of day passes at the gym because you were just like so fresh there.
Yeah.
And I remember people would come up and just bother you. Not like, I mean, you were training, like you were going, it's your job at the end of the day. So they would come up and try talking to you. And the biggest thing is like, I think it was 2 weeks out. I'm like, bro, you need to start going at like 12 o'clock or whatever it is. And yeah, we had to kick you out of the office. I mean, I didn't think we'd have to, but like.
It was a nice getaway at some point too.
Yeah.
But yeah, because I'm not like grinding, but like just the ideas and changes and flows, like I want my direction to be like implemented. And I leave for a few weeks and something happened. I'm like, what the fuck is this? And I'm like, well, you were gone. I was like, damn it. So it's just part of it. Yeah. But it was definitely, it's fun being here. And when you're prepping, sometimes you want to take your mind off it.
Yeah. I mean,
until it starts taking away from my energy training for sure.
That's another thing. I mean, for anyone who's like prepping now and they think like, oh, let me just like find whatever job's the easiest to stay home or anything else like that. I truly do believe a job is like the number one thing to keep you focused on prep.
Yeah.
Like literally like you start your day, you go throughout the whole day. You don't think about food. I think a lot of people now is like they stay home as influencers and stuff. And they just, their meals are done by 2 p.m. because they're so hungry and that's all they think about.
Yeah.
But
it's honestly though, it was hard because 2020 was the COVID year when nothing was going on, everything was shut down. That was my life. It was sleep, train, repeat, and that was probably like the most efficient I'd ever been.
Yeah.
But if I did that for fucking 5 years, I would not be as efficient.
Yeah.
I had 1 year of that where I could kill myself and do nothing. But like if my brain was only just waiting for the next meal, waiting to work out, waiting to sleep, and then like trying to fall asleep at night because you've been napping all day. Like, you go insane after a while.
Yeah.
Like, the bodybuilders that do that all day, every day for fucking 15 years, I'm like, good for you. Like,
they're truly made for that. Like,
fuck, yeah.
If I have one nap at all, like, I'm fucked at night.
Yeah.
That plus the caffeine and everything else, it's
fucked.
They just keep it going. But,
yeah.
I mean, I'd say the move worked out.
The move worked out great, yeah. And then we got to the point where we were like, fuck packing T-shirts. Hired a third-party company to start doing that.
Yeah, I think we vetted a couple companies. We had to make sure we had the right partnership in place. And at the time, they were in New York. I think now they're in North Carolina. And it just got to the point where we were putting too much time and effort into the packing when we needed to be focusing elsewhere.
Yeah.
So we needed to kind of shift gears there. And then kind of like at the time, I was focusing a lot on Raw too. Mm-hmm. So we needed to kind of like figure that stuff out. And obviously now we have Bum Energy. We have the clothing, some other side clothing stuff that
may or may not come out ever.
Yeah, it has. See, the thing is, like, the thing I respect about Chris is that everything has to be right. Like, especially when it comes from clothing, if it's not like the top of the line clothing, he's like, nope. If I'm not gonna wear it, no one else is gonna wear it.
Yeah, fuck that.
You know. So I think like that. It's taken a behind the scenes. We worked on it maybe for a year and a half at least, just like
strictly for
strictly. That's what I mean.
Overall, like 3 years.
Yeah. But I mean, like from going to like we've worked with so many different manufacturers. We've like gotten so many different samples. We'll get like 80% of the way there, and we're like, honestly, like No.
Yeah. It's also how much we have on our plate.
Yeah.
Like we wouldn't have the energy to be able to put in like what we want to right now. With like Bum Energy launching, Bum Streets now and being under here, La Raw, Revive, the merch, the app that we're relaunching, like everything is just, we wouldn't have the energy to put into it. So
speaking of Vaughn, what were your thoughts when he first come on?
Vaughn?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just thought he was a good kid. He was super. He was like
for
anyone, a lot like me.
For anyone
honestly.
Listening, like obviously they've seen his success story. Yeah. Like, what's something that they can emulate from him?
He was honestly a lot like me, but on the earlier than me, he really got into business and wanting to put the work in for himself, and like he just understands people a lot. He's a little introverted and he observes, and I can tell that. So while he was hustling with like bodybuilding and shit, he also wanted to apply business. So he's coming to the office, but he never overstepped. Yeah. He knew if he was intruding and he was doing too much, and then he didn't. And then he made himself super like valuable, and then he presented an offer that he wanted to like start his own thing and do this. And when he did that, he's been in the office even more than me. Yeah. He's doing all the work on it. Like he's fucking here all the time. Like
he travels for it.
He travels for it. He's asking to travel more for it. Like he wants it, you know? Yeah. And nothing he ever feels like is like, he understands he's been given a great gift in a lot of ways, and therefore he's going to earn it. Yeah. You know? Yeah. He's like great. He's grateful. Yeah. Which I think a huge aspect of success and long-term success is gratitude.
That he doesn't expect anything from anybody.
Exactly.
You know?
He's always grateful for it. He's like, I didn't expect this. Like, thank you. I'm going to earn it. Yeah. Which I think is huge.
Yeah. I mean, he takes it as like, oh, if like you scratch my, like, not like you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. But like, if you go in any capacity to any length for him, he's going to go 10 times farther for you. Which I think that's like same thing with Dom and Matt here. I think they're the exact same way. I think that's why everything kind of just gels together.
I think even on a lower level of that, what a big thing of like a lot of us, like starting with you and I, it was like, if you're a good person, I'm going to have your back. Yes. It wasn't even what you do for me. It was like, I just trusted you. You know, you were like, you left your company and I'm like, whatever goes on in the future, we're doing this together because I trust you because you're a good person. So like, ride or die, we're going to like, wherever I end up, you're going to be beside me, you know? Yeah. And once you get that feeling with someone, it's just like, it's not even that you need to earn it through your work. It's just like you just trust them. Yeah, yeah. Having confidence in others is like creates such a peace inside of you. And once you find those people, like just like stick with them.
Yeah, I mean, I think like down here even too, like there's no like agenda. Like at the end of the day, it's like we all want to work towards something and get better. Like it's about just doing, like putting in the work every day and the effort. And at the end of the day, whatever happens. Like, and if things went great, horrible, whatever. At the end of the day, we were all still like there for each other.
Yeah. I think a funny thing about Vaughn too is you'll see him stressing. Yeah. About everything. he'll like wanting to be selling out. So if he's just about to but hasn't sold out yet, he's like, what if the last 5 boxes of bars don't sell? I'm like, what are you talking about, man? You're still worrying about it? And then he's like, how can we do more next time? He's like worried about it, which is like good. At one point, you got to be able to relax and enjoy, but it keeps them like hungry and working.
Well, it's funny because like obviously with anything with business, like I'm always under the impression like I used to do obviously trade shows and stuff. So like I was always under the impression what can go wrong will go wrong. So you just have to like kind of just like maneuver through it. And I remember like a couple things like happened with him and stuff with the Vaughn Streets during the whole initiation of it. And he like came to me the one day and he's like, "Is this like normal? Like how do I deal with this?" And like he comes in like bright red, like. Yeah. And it's just something you have to just kind of roll with the punches, and I think he's starting to learn that as like time goes on.
You have to learn it the hard way. Yeah, you were the same. Yeah, because you were a lot of the logistics back end of a lot of our shit. So when small things like we'll have a T-shirt order 1 month, and then 2 months later we'll double the order quantity, and you'll be like, "We're not selling out yet." Yeah. We used to sell out in like 5 minutes, and it would be like an hour, and we haven't sold out. You'd be texting me stressing. I'd be like, "Bro, it's been an hour. Like we just doubled the order quantity. No one grows that quick."
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of growing pains, but I think we've kind of managed a lot of them to the best that we can, obviously. And
I think we've always spoken about it, and like this warehouse is a great example of like being grateful for the growing pains. Yeah, because any other pains, like shrinking pains, are way worse. Yeah, you know, if you were like dying, that's way worse than growing too fast. You know, at least you know you're going to be big, or you're at least moving in the right direction. Yeah, so it's always again come back to just being grateful for that ride and be like, all right, this is a good thing. I can stress about it because it's important, but like at the end of the day, it's for a good reason. Yeah.
Do you have any questions?
Pop in some questions, see if we got any, and then
wrap it up.
I saw Marlon here. I was like, yo, can you give me an adjustment?
Shout out to Dr. Marlon, best in the game.
Instagram. He just started his own practice in Jupiter. Official Dr. Marlon Chiropractic. I just made that up.
It's Marlin Chiropractic.
Marlin Chiropractic. If you're in Jupiter, he's your man. Someone's like, name a better twin. I'll wait. That's the other thing. I feel like,
twins.
Matty, you need to like lighten your beard a bit or something. I know. But you could just replace me at some expos.
I get a lot that I truly think it's by association. They'll see me in a video and they don't actually like know who I am. But like, I don't think I look like you at all. But I was in Starbucks, I was at a gym, everything else. Everywhere I go, did you know that you look like Chris Bumstead? And it's funny because like I always just play like I have no idea who you are.
Who's that?
At the end of the day, I'm like, it's not worth getting into. Either that or I get like Bradley Martin whenever I wear a hat. Just because of the beard.
You cry after?
Do I cry? Yeah, I cry. Shout out to Bradley.
That's not a horrible compliment.
No, that's okay. When I was bigger, I got that.
When you were big.
I guess when I'm smaller, I get Chris.
All right, it says, which Mr. Olympia have you enjoyed the most? For those who don't know, Matt's only missed one Olympia of mine. He's my goat that gets me through it. So which one have you enjoyed the most?
Honestly, the last one, 2022, I think was probably the one. It was probably the most calm but hectic at the same time. But I think just like with the group that was all there, like everyone was there, everything was in place. I think it was probably the best one just from that capacity. I think like Hani coming in kind of like brought a new aspect. And I think like watching all of them, like the first one, you enjoyed, but like you didn't know what you were doing. Like it was just like so new to you that you were like just this kid.
Yeah.
The second one was 2018. That was when you just got sick. Yeah. So like that one, I think like you lost by like literally a point. And like we walked into that, like you called me 2 weeks out. You were like at the hospital. You just got out of the hospital. You said like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And like, we just said like, let's just kind of mitigate whatever's going on and see if you can even make it. If not, like, it's not the end of the world, but like you still followed through. And I think that one, you were just so numb. 2019 was when you won.
I won.
But I remember you walked outside and like, you made a comment. I can't remember exactly what the comment was, but we were walking to the car and you said something like, it just doesn't feel like I accomplished anything. Like it literally was like, I won, but like, I just don't like, I thought I'd feel more to this. Yeah. Like there wasn't any, like, you didn't gain anything from it. And then 2020, obviously I missed, but I think 2021 was that one besides the bicep injury. I think that was like your smoothest prep. And like, I actually like watched you enjoy it. 22. Yeah. It was like the one that you kind of just enjoyed. And
yeah,
I did like, what was the one where you did Ian, you and Mel competed? That was 2017.
No, I think that was 18.
2018.
I think that's what got me through it because I was so stressed out, but they were both competing. So I could like put some energy on them. 2019,
I think was your worst. Like,
yeah. The one I won, the first one. Everyone thinks that was the best one because
you won that one, but I think like no one realized like what you were going through behind the scenes.
I forgot about that conversation walking out.
Yeah,
I remember like walked out, took some pictures. RX Muscle was there, then we kept walking, and I was just like, why don't I feel like good about this? I feel like I'm missing something.
Yeah.
Still. Wow, that was literally that reason right there was like where my mind was like, something's wrong with my mind, the way I approach these things.
Yeah.
I compartmentalize everything, numb everything, don't deal with any stress. And now I'm not even dealing with the victory either. I'm numbing all emotions. And I was like, I got to fucking work on my mind. And that started the whole champion mentality after that.
I think like 2020 is the one where like, I remember COVID first started and you looked at me and you're like, I'm just going to not work out at all. Like, this is great. Like, and you lasted about like 2 weeks and you're like, fuck this. Like, I got to start doing more for me. And I think that's when like, I think COVID honestly was probably one of the best things for you.
Yeah, helped.
Because that was I saw the most growth from you in 2020, not from like, obviously they see it from a physical side, but I think from the mental side, like you started studying yourself, you started studying things to improve yourself. Like you started doing meditation, you started doing cold plunges and everything else like that. So I don't think people.
I think that was when I first started going to therapy too.
Yeah. But I think 2019, like that was one that was rough because I mean, I came out there, I think 4 weeks out and I stayed for like a week.
Oh, yeah, it was Calvin.
And it was Calvin was there. Courtney was new to it all. It was her first Olympia with you. And she was trying so hard. Like she came up to me. She's like, am I doing everything right? Like you've been here before. And I think you had gone to get a haircut. And we talked for like a whole hour. And I was like, I was like, Chris likes doing things a certain way. I was like, just help where you can. Like, and like, and at that time, like you like being alone backstage, like nothing. And she was like, really? Like I would want someone there. And I think that one was tough because like I was there from that fourth week out. I was there for a week, and then you asked me to stay for another week. And it was because every time he woke up, he would take check-in pictures. His upper body was like in 4 weeks out. His legs still, but his legs looked like they were like 15 weeks out still. They were full of water and like small. So he was because he had a knee problem at that time too.
Well, it was also just the inflammation with like pulling water out of the muscle and putting it into the skin.
Yeah.
So they looked just like.
So every morning he would wake up and he would push on his shins and see how watery he was. And like, it was just so demoralizing at that point. And I remember it was like one day Calvin was filming every day and he used to just have the camera in your face nonstop. And there was one day I pulled him aside and I said like, just leave him alone. Like you could tell like you were like broken at this point. And I knew you had it was like your last leg day or quad day or something. Yeah. And you thought about not going to the gym that day. And you said, just fucking go to the gym without me. Like me, Courtney, and Chris, and Calvin went out. We just did our thing. And I remember like we were halfway through a workout and you showed up. And I'm like, oh, like he's going to do this. Like he's going to make it through. And I think it was like one of your best leg days you had. It was at...
those are always the best leg days.
Movati.
You feel like shit. This was the extreme version of that. Yeah. Just like, I don't want to go. And like, fuck it. Don't be a bitch. Get in there.
Well, I remember because like... I think that was the first time because like you don't like show emotion like that. But I remember like Mel, we had dinner with Mel that night. And I think she like texted you. She's like, you choose to do this. Yeah. So either like you're all in or you're all out. Yeah. And I think that was like your turning point of like that prep. And then I think like the water all came out and obviously you won. But I think that was when you were like, again, still numb to it all.
Yeah. That's stressful.
Yeah.
There's so many little moments I forget about all this shit. I'm like, damn, I forget about those workouts and the Melissa and you were sleeping on the couch that whole time too, eh?
Yeah. So I was sleeping on the couch.
It was a nice couch though.
It was probably the nicest couch. It was like the one that like at a college, probably not a college fucking dorm, but like it was just Calvin took the bedroom, even though he worked like it was a 2-bedroom apartment with a living space. And Calvin would work at like 3 o'clock in the morning still and have all the lights on. He'd be eating ice cream, pissing Chris off with fucking whatever pastry he had that night. And Chris' one rule was no pastries in the house. Like just he doesn't want to smell them. He doesn't want to whatever.
Toast or pastry.
And like he would do toast with Nutella every night. And he took the bedroom and I was on the couch and all he would do is edit until 3-4 o'clock in the morning.
That was bad, yeah. Calvin, one thing he doesn't have regard for other people, which like I respect that in him because on one level like I think too much about what other people are thinking. You don't give a fuck. No. He'll like tune out to his phone. He'll be talking to him, then listen to you, then he just says whatever he wants. You ask him something, he's like no, and then he goes and does whatever he wants, and I'm like, all right, man, fuck me, I guess. It is what it is.
Any other good ones?
He said, how did Matty Milkshake get his name?
Oh, Matty Milkshake. So back in the day,
he used to be a fat fuck.
I used to be super fat. No,
actually, weren't fat at all.
I wasn't fat, but there was food challenges and like I used to compete. I competed like for one show, and I'm like, this is not for me at the time. Like I just was focusing on work. But I don't know. A lot of these people, they find just a love in watching other people eat, and I would watch like back in the day, like. I can't remember their names. It was like Eric the Electric or something. And, Matt Stoney, yeah. You would watch all these guys eat. Eaters. And I think another one's like Nathan Figueroa. And I would literally watch these guys while just doing cardio. And I'm someone who I have this really bad habit of like finishing my food in like 3 seconds. Like I can eat anything in 15 minutes. Like it doesn't matter. If I can get whatever in 15 minutes, it doesn't matter how many calories it is. And I'm like, well, maybe I can kind of like do something with this. And I started doing some food challenges. And at one point, I think I did one where it was like with milkshakes. I did one with ice cream first, where it was like 6 pounds of ice cream I ate in like 14 minutes. And it was the worst feeling I've ever had. I burned the inside of my mouth. It was disgusting. I burned it because like from the how cold it was, obviously. And Eric Electric actually hit me up after, and he's like, "Oh, you're a rookie. Like, you're supposed to have coffee with the ice cream." I'm like, "Oh, thanks for the heads up beforehand." And I did one with like milkshakes, and they kind of had this ring to it. Someone at work at MHP said it, and it just kind of stuck. went with it. Yeah.
I remember when we started working together and you were like my manager and shit. Like, bro, change your name.
Yo,
you always like, oh yeah, this is my manager, Matty Milkshake. Like, what the fuck, bro?
Chris hated it in the beginning, and it got to the point where like anywhere we went, people just like knew me for that.
Yeah.
And like he's like, oh, I guess like just keep it at this point.
I was like, whatever.
It just sounded so stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Stupid Milkshake. Now it's there forever.
Yeah, now it's there forever. That's all I'm known by now.
When you started working with Chris, did you guys ever think you would take it this far?
I don't think we would have. It's like a catch-22. Like, obviously, when you first start doing those things, like, you expect everything and anything for it to happen. But I think, like, the biggest thing what we did, we kind of kept, like, small goals in place. Like, we had, like, this long-term thing. But, like, I figured if we were to continue to hit these small goals, like, eventually we would get to something.
Yeah.
But, like, to this capacity, like, no, I don't think it ever thought it would come to, like, this. But at the time, like, we also weren't living in the same state, like, 25 minutes away from each other. Like, it was just different.
Yeah.
I was also just young at the time. So I mean, you were young.
Yeah.
People don't know. I mean, you're 2.5 years younger than me. You're 28.
30 now?
Yeah. I'm going to be 31. Yeah. I know.
Yeah, jeez.
I know.
You're gonna make me soon. I remember, because I remember never wanting, telling you I never want to own a supplement company.
Yes.
Because I wanted to do like business, but I didn't want to own a supplement company. And then the more I was with other supplement companies, I was like,
you're like, I could just do this better.
Yeah, there's just so many little things like that could be like so much better, but I also didn't want to do the bullshit. So I'm like, dumb. Handle the bullshit. Let me throw some ideas at you. First of all, get rid of those fucking brown labels. Yeah. Here we are. We got better labels, you know? We still have brown labels if I never came.
We do.
So.
We would.
Fuck. And no Thavage.
It's
true. What would we be doing without Thavage? What's our time at?
It's an hour. Yeah, to wrap up now.
Do a couple questions.
I have one question.
Shoot.
How did you feel when you went viral? And you noticed that up as well? Because like your following went from 930K, in a year you went to 200K, and in what, 4 years you went from that to 17 though? Mm-hmm. So do you remember like a pivotal time where it's just like, holy shit, that's a lot? And then
first Olympia win.
When I won the first one. Yeah.
Because that one you went from like 700, like I think you were like 700 for a little while.
Yeah.
And that one it like shot up overnight like 500,000 followers.
And I really documented that one.
Yes.
Like I was one of the first like successful Olympians.
Yes.
I was the first successful Olympia to like prep series.
Yes. You
know, like everyone was like, "Oh my God, at the Olympia, I'm too serious. I can't have a videographer or YouTube." And I just like showed it all, and I remember it popped off then.
Yeah.
But I don't remember what I felt about it. I just remember thinking, "Holy shit, this is crazy." But I don't know. I never really paid attention to like the growth. I don't think
Chris ever really takes to heart like the following. Like if you were to still ask him today, like he'd be like, "Oh, that's so stupid." Like I don't have that many following. Like it doesn't matter to him. I don't think he's always been the same person at like the young 20-year-old that I met at 30,000 followers that he is today. Like nothing really changed.
Yeah,
you know.
I watched like I saw an old interview or something of me, and I was saying how I'm most appreciative for compliments people give me about who I am when they can like see a piece of who I am and like me being a kind person or like something. And I was like, and I was young and I remember saying that's what I valued over like anything else. Yeah. And those truly come from people who know you. And I just like never really was affected by like the follower amount. Like
to me, like what I think has become the most important is like we were at the event in New Jersey and this mom/teacher, she like we weren't like hiding, but like we were in a back room and she like didn't care. She walked right to the back and she's like, "Christopher, I need to talk to you." And it was just like, she said like, just how well you speak and what you speak about from like your mental side of things and everything else like that, like truly changes something for someone else or like opens their mind a little bit to like, hey, it's okay to have feelings. It's okay to do this. Yeah. And I think like that's the thing that like you see the most. And I think you take most pride in.
Sure. Yeah. This mom was like almost crying, telling me about her daughter. It was a daughter too, like impacting her. And I was like about to cry too. I was like, fuck, like, thank you. Like, that means a lot, like more than anything else. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Followers haven't really, I don't think it has really meant anything to you.
No, I remember being excited I hit 1 million for sure.
Yeah. But I think when you hit 1 million on Instagram, you're like, oh, that's fucking cool. And then like by the next day, you were just like, whatever. Yeah. And then like same thing for YouTube. You hit your first million. You just wanted the plaque. Like that's all you wanted. Like that was like the goal at the time. Yeah, so you probably don't even know.
That's somewhere. It was in my old office. I don't know where it is now.
Yeah, Calvin probably has.
Calvin probably took it and put it on his wall. Asshole.
Hey? You're good to do.
You want to do 2 more.
Yeah.
There are literally no questions. I'm from Pakistan. Please reply to me.
Technically, you just did.
Shout out to him.
This is, I think, the first batch of answers come from like horrible stuff.
They just want you to see it.
There's not even. There's literally not even questions. As I'm scrolling. Who has a better beard? Matty.
Me.
Definitely, yeah. Other than when you like line it up too low.
That's not by choice.
True. Mine's better for like 2 days a week because you don't shave your own cheeks and neck.
Know.
So mine's a little cleaner, but yours is way thicker.
He stays more like on top. I'm afraid to like cut my own beard and like shape it up. I'll do it occasionally, but I'm afraid to like just miss and nick a spot and then I have to shave it all off. But Chris does it all on his own.
Yeah. So it sucks. I almost did it the other day. I was actually trimming the side.
And then like you start having to go lower and lower.
Yeah.
Fucked up.
Matt, you didn't look like without a beard.
It's been a long time. You can put a picture up if you want. I back from when I competed, my face was like sucked in.
Very different.
Very different. I look young.
When I first met you.
I've always had a beard.
Yeah.
I've had one since I was like 21. And I only shaved it, I think, once for my competition.
Someone says, Matty, how important is it to have supportive family or friends?
I mean, without the support, I really think like I think you can do it without the support, obviously, like if you don't have it, but I think like it's been such a huge part of who I am and who you are from the support that we get from mostly our family. And
we were very similar with the way we were raised by our family. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like it was just something that you could always like lean on someone. I think like was like you always had like Mel. Like I think Mel kept you in line for a lot of things, you know, like she never like let any fame or anything get to your head. Like she'd be like, you know, she would like sit you down and be like, yo.
I knew she never really had to, but she would.
She would if she had to, you know what I mean? Like she was very just like straight.
She would say it before it happened.
Yes.
Like passive, like the opposite of passive aggressive.
I think you had some like little riff with Ian at something and she just said like, yo, Chris, like chill.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even anything big, but I think like that was one moment I'm like, oh, she's got him like in line with who he needs to be. And like, I think that's always helps you. But I think support from your side of things is, I don't think I would have grown the same without the support. Like if, I'm assuming they're asking from like you and me, I don't would have grown the same without your support in that like, I look now at the mental side of things because of you. Yeah. Like I go to therapy because of you. Like you allowed me to open up my eyes to different things that I never really thought about or even cared about. And like doing that kind of just, it kind of brings like a different element, not only to like your work, but like your personal life. Mm-hmm. And like, that was the one thing, like, the personal life I think is what he helped me with the most, honestly.
Yeah. Just the stuff people neglect.
Yeah, like
I'm the
one that just takes stuff and I shove it down as deep as possible, and then like it'll come out in like 6 months or 2 years, like. And he was like, "You literally can't do that anymore. Like,
doesn't work."
Yeah, and
that's when that's what causes the jersey
to come out. And I think that was the biggest thing from a support side that he's helped me with, and just like that, and him believing in what we could do. Mm-hmm. You know, like. Without his belief, I wouldn't have quit MHP. I wouldn't have done anything else like that. So it was definitely like nice that like I could lean on you, and hopefully like you were able to lean on me.
For sure, yeah.
You know.
Yeah. All right, last one. Who's gonna win the Olympia? Not open.
Open.
Obviously, I'm gonna win.
Open.
Confident.
Whew. They're both Hani guys, so
you think one or the other?
I truly do think Derek is gonna win it this year. I think like for him, I think it's funny because like Hani always like the expectations were never high for him, especially even last year.
Yeah,
I used like when you were in the room, I'd walk around with Hani, and anyone would come up to him, and he's like, they would say, "Where do you think Derek's gonna place?" And he said, "Look, at the end of the day, our goal is top 10. Like, doesn't matter. I just see him finishing 10th. Like, and he always kept the expectations low because he's knew at the end of the day, like,
well, Derek needed that.
Yeah, Derek needed it, but I think like he never like showed like his cards in a way of like what he actually truly thought.
Yeah.
And then when Derek came out, there was like lights out. And
Honey's just in the background.
yeah, like I proved them wrong. But he also said it from a fact that like Derek had so much new muscle that like he didn't know what he would look like, dieted down to that capacity. So he didn't know if like he would look more like his 212 self, which is still obviously probably 7 to 10, or like what he looked like from that. So I think now with another off season under his belt where he didn't have to do any shows, he didn't have to do anything else like that, his muscle is going to hold a lot more. And I think just his shape alone is kind of what propels him to first.
Yeah.
And I think like obviously, I think you're going to have a Hottie still up there. I think Samson's going to be up there. And I truly like Andrew Jack's physique just because it flows like that. So I would say like that's. Am I missing somebody?
I'm sure, but
I mean Nick. I like Nick. I think Nick's a different animal in himself. Like obviously he was top 3 last year. I think he's right up there again for that same positioning and top. I think he'd even get 2. I think Nick has to play the size game for what it is, rather than try to suck down somewhere.
Yeah. It'll depend on the direction it goes for sure. I'm biased being in classic that I just love Derek's.
Yeah.
Like it's pretty. And I've seen and I like know Derek a little bit and I've like seen him like just the way he is right now. Like I feel like he's locked in. Last year I don't think he was as locked in as he is right now.
No.
So.
I think he's also what people don't see is like, at least from my experience of seeing him in Pittsburgh and everything else like that, like he truly is enjoying it.
Yeah.
I don't know if he like just from like previous, I don't know if he'd enjoyed it as much as he is today.
For sure.
You know, so that would be my vote for who wins. And for classic, who knows?
I don't know. Some rookie's gonna come in.
I'm curious. Like, does anybody? Who else is in? Obviously, you have Ramon and Urs. Like, was there any? And who's the other guy?
Mike Summerfield.
Summerfield. He was 5th. I'm trying to think. Is there anybody?
Rion's gone. Terrence. I think Terrence will slide back up in the top 5.
I think Terrence.
I think he had a bad year, but.
Who's the other guy? Marlon worked on him. Fabian? Where was he?
There?
I don't know.
Didn't pay attention to much.
I said I pay attention to maybe like top 5, and then like I honestly who I do want to see do well this year is what's his name? He's from China or Japan.
Oh, Branch.
So his quads are fucking
Yeah,
crazy.
I think he's just such a genuine dude too.
Yeah.
Like, I think obviously like his upper body needs to come up a little bit, but I think like he can make some noise from what he can do.
Yeah, he's got crazy.
You know, and I think obviously Urs looks fucking ridiculous right now.
Apparently the dude's like 275.
I don't
was
know.
asking me that too.
What's
like,
his
what do you
weight
think
cap?
is
Isn't
weight?
it 212?
No, 222.
222.
He's tall,
Yeah.
but still, it's like 50.
That's a lot of
50
weight
some
to get
pounds.
off you.
Kudos. He did it last year. He said he was in his 270 last year too, so he can obviously do it. But me, I'd lose 25 pounds.
Yeah.
Max. You know.
I think that's what.
That's double at me.
I think like that's what you guys implemented last year is like, you did this in like a nice, slow, controlled fashion that like, that was the easiest I think any prep has ever been for you from like a physical. Like you were only dead like the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Like you didn't like the prep before that. Like you were miserable the whole
2021
time.
sucked.
You know, but I think that had a lot to do with like just like you were figuring out autoimmune disease and everything
There's
else
some
like
shit
that.
going
And there's
on.
other stuff going on. But
Yeah.
and there's more. I mean, we just moved to Florida, so there's a lot of stress happening too at the same time.
Yeah.
Like you were settled last year, so I think that was what made a huge difference.
Yeah.
And Hani is just neurotic. So
And then God was like, tear your bicep the day before the show because it's been too easy. And I'm like, okay.
I gotta
That's my
say
life.
that was the one time because like so Hani would keep me in the room because like I was the only one at that point who really like kind of studied what Chris looked like in each one. And like I love Courtney, but she's always gonna say you look good.
Yeah.
So like Hani was like, I need like a true opinion of like what he actually looks like. And I remember, which I still to this day feel so bad. It was like the day before morning of the Olympia. Hani's like, be there at 5 a.m. And I was like, it's a horrible idea. Like, Chris is going to hate us, like, whatever. So I show up at 5 a.m. and Chris opens the door and he's like, fuck you guys. Like,
Well, so he told them 5 a.m. and he told me like 5:30.
Yeah.
So my alarm was set for 5:30. He showed up. He woke me up by banging on the door. I was like, what the fuck are you doing?
And I was like, I was told to be here. Meanwhile, Hani's nowhere to be found. And we go in, and I sat down, and I'm like, it was just so, the tension in the room at that point was so high, because even Calvin was in there, and we had Carly too. So it was three of us the morning of the Olympia. Like, he needed his alone time. And like, I remember just like looking at him, and he like texted me. He's like, can you just give me like a half hour? And like, I was like, totally get it. Like, I'm fucking out. And I leave, and then I get a text from Hani in 20 minutes. Where are you, bro? And I like come right back. And he opens the door, and he just like shoved Calvin out, because he was very like closed off.
Coming with the camera, he's like, nope.
Yeah, slammed it right in his face, and like I felt so bad, like, because at that time, like, Hani, like, he's gotten so much better of like opening up to the process of everything, but like he was very like closed doors type of thing, and he just needed to know like true opinion and anything else like that. At that time, like, we walked in, and like Chris was like, yo, my bicep, something is wrong. And like, that was when we were like, now me and Hani are talking, we're like, you could notice it, but like, it wasn't like hindering anything, but like, you definitely could notice it. And like, he was like, looked at me, and he's like, can you notice it? And I'm like you can. I said, I don't think it's like the end of the world, but like, as long as you can flex it, like, actually made your bicep look fuller. Like,
my side chest made it look way better.
Yeah, so I don't think it was like that hindering. It's just the fact that it looked so different from the other one in some shots. But obviously, like I said, you kind of just, I mean, you were a day out. What were you going to do? So you kind of just made it through it. And Hani still, after all of that, was like, no, pose more. And Chris was like, I don't know how many more poses I got left in me in this arm. And it was a crazy morning.
It's always hectic at Olympia. People don't even see the shit that doesn't go on with the camera.
I mean, I don't think they even realize just how structured and like you were up at like 5 a.m. every morning. Like, Hani needed to come to your room to see you. I mean, we literally, Hani gave us a list of food and said, go buy all this, like, regardless of whatever.
I think we spent like 15 grand at Whole Foods.
1,500.
No, like, that was like 10 grand over the week.
Oh, of the week. Yeah. I thought you meant
1,500 for the day.
Yeah, for the day.
Yeah.
It was like, he would give us this list of food and say, like, this is what I need. And we would go there, and like, Whole Foods wasn't even close. Everything had to be from Whole Foods. And it was
grass-fed,
organic. And it was like a 45-minute drive away, and fucking Vegas traffic is horrible. And it was, our team was basically, Courtney was the cook, and I was the person who would go get it if we needed anything else. And every day he had a new list, no matter what we had. If we didn't use whatever the previous thing we got. More. And he's like, he always needed some other different type of carb or meat or any potato. And you would always be going back and forth to this fucking Whole Foods. And it was just, it was chaos, to say the least.
Structured chaos.
But hey, it all worked.
It all worked out in the end.
Yeah.
He knew what he was doing. Until the next one. But yeah, I think we're going to wrap this up. Right?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Matthew, for joining.
Enjoyed it.
Thank you guys for watching.
Peace.